My name's Matt Griffiths. I'm the Director of Portfolio and Solutions here at ZircoDATA. I'm joined today by Jeanette, Inglis, our Records Manager, who has a significant industry experience across all matters, retention management, information governance, and she'll be talking about some exciting things a bit later on as well. A bit of housekeeping. There's a questions function in the chat there. You can ask all your questions and throughout, and we'll absolutely get to those towards the end. So yeah, please ask any questions that come to mind. Anything you're finding interesting, or some of your experience, or anything you want to kind of throw out there. Yeah, please ask the question, and looking forward to the discussion. There's certainly an interesting topic in this space. So yeah, looking forward to the next little while with you all. Just a quick snapshot of how this kind of fits into what we talk about here at ZircoDATA, and what we kind of talk to our customers about, or you guys are on the call. It's just really a snapshot of the way we think about the pillars of our portfolio. In that kind of pillar one, we call that kind of traditional secure management, record management business, secure storage. In that second pillar there, our digital and conversion business, of course, document scanning and digital mailroom, and a new exciting translation services business. But while we're here today is to talk about our information governance piece, and really an area of not just our business, but an area of corporate organisation that's really moving at a rate of knots in terms of all the laws and regulations that are governing all our records and information. So that's a good segue into kicking off some of the conversation. This slide's it's busy, but it's almost busy for a purpose in that it's trying to capture the essence that there's a significant evolution in terms of the laws and regulations which are governing our records and all our information. Kicked off in the 1970s when we had that kind of first Data Protection Act there in Germany, and ever since it's been a steady stream of new regulations covering the way we have to hold information, share information, protect the privacy of our consumer or our customers' information, and to that end, it's a comprehensive set of acts across global, but also here in Australia. Whilst not all these directly impact Australia, what we're certainly seeing is that they influence the nature of our laws and regulations. And for those of you who operate within or outside of Australia, you'll no doubt be well aware of some of the onerous obligations for some of the privacy acts and otherwise in Europe and the United States. So we see obviously important things there, like our Corporations Act. Sarbanes-Oxley was obviously a key new act following or to ensure corporations didn't mislead investors. The Dodd-Frank following the Wall Street crisis. The Open Banking Act has been something very interesting here in Australia over the last couple of years to allow consumers to opt into sharing their information across third parties. But then in the last kind of 5 to 10 years, what you'll note there in that space is the real momentum shift in new privacy laws. So whilst historically a lot of the regulations and laws are around ultimately how long we need to retain records and making sure we follow those rules closely, the new privacy laws ultimately have a bit of the opposite in terms of there's a maximum period you need to, or you can hold your customers' records or any records for, and it's that interaction between maximum and minimum periods which is really important to understand. And some of these laws are quite onerous. The GDPR in Europe is a set of really onerous privacy laws, and this is significant penalties for breach for both organisations and employees. And the US is going down this path as well. I was recently in the United States, and certainly they're talking about the laws that are being kind of reviewed and introduced across a variety of the states there. So And whilst in Australia our privacy laws are probably slightly narrower in scope and application, there is a global trend to following GDPR and the like. And in fact, a number of organisations in Australia are already following GDPR as best practice. And I was only speaking to somebody the other day who was kind of reinforcing this message that that our privacy laws are being reviewed today. And in fact, there's talk about there being a requirement potentially for certification, to an independent certification scheme to demonstrate that you as an organisation are complying with Australian privacy laws. So it's a really interesting space at the moment to think about, well, are we as an organisation, are you as an organisation, are we ready for this? Are we comfortable that we're meeting the obligations under privacy law? Do we know what's in our boxes? Do we know what records we're storing? It's no longer good enough that we all just kind of potentially store records forever. We don't understand kind of what we're holding and why we're holding it. There's certainly no sign that our privacy laws are going to be watered down. And as I said, there's some of the introductions that they're talking about are going to be they're going to have some significant consequences for all of us. Just a quick kind of shout out here. As I said, privacy laws have seen significant momentum over the last 5 or 10 years, and this is a kind of because it's really a snapshot to say there's I think there are close to 160 countries now that have privacy laws and regulations, and some of them have multiple instruments governing personal data protection and privacy. So that's almost 80% of countries across the world have some sort of privacy regulation. So again, this is no longer just emerging. It's upon us, and again, the requirements of these laws are becoming more onerous. So if I was trying to summarise some of the challenges that I see from talking to our customers and from our experience, there's as I call out there's a significant number of laws and regulations that are governing our corporations, and there's a significant number of laws that are changing every day, and this then requires changes to our policies, retention policies, and the way we dispose and hold our records. Organisations are holding records in a myriad of systems. It's their physical records, their digital records, they're on-site, off-site, they're in the cloud. So it's important to understand where these records are, what repositories as an organisation do you have, and what records are you holding in each of those repositories is very important to understand. And therefore the appropriate retention management of those records is becoming increasingly important in trying to mitigate risk, reduce cost, improve efficiencies. And we probably all agree then with all that complexity, a solution is really required that's easy to use, it's audible, it's legally defensible. A lot of the customers that we talk to, they're dealing with retention schedules in Excel, and they're managing that kind of audit trail in Excel, and that's quite complicated. It's expensive for legal resource to update and maintain, and keeping it current is representing a significant challenge. It's a lot of organisations update a retention schedule, and it's a well-earned pat on the back, because it's a lot of hard work to get that into a good shape. But then that's only really the start of the process, the start of the journey. It's great there's a retention schedule in place, but then it needs to be updated, maintained, and kept current. As I said, the laws and regulations they're not slowing down. The privacy piece now is becoming again more onerous, and staying on top of these changes is becoming increasingly important. So the answer to some of these challenges is Virgo. I'm excited to talk a bit more about Virgo today, and Jeanette in a little while will do a bit of a demonstration of, I guess, how that looks and what it is from a really practical sense. But Virgo ultimately is a powerful cloud-based retention management software solution. And if I put it into the simplest terms, it would be taking your record series, your content types, so everything that you're capturing in a retention schedule, so everything you're holding in your repositories online and offline, etc. So it takes all those record series and content types, maps the legislation and rules and the acts to those record series and content types. And every time there's a change in the law or the regulation, you and the organisation would automatically be notified, and then you therefore can update your policies accordingly. So it's the perfect way to maintain your policies in a way that's legally defensible, it's auditable, and it allows, there's an employee portal that allows you to ensure that information shared across the organisation, so everyone understands how long a record needs to be kept for, and in fact, what's the maximum time, as I mentioned, a record can be kept for. So the power of Virgo is really in the legal research. It's all about allowing you to stay on top of the laws and the regulations that are changing in a timely and cost-effective manner, and really eliminating the risk of non-compliance. It's as I said, with all these new laws and regulations that are constantly changing, it's very easy to either miss or to be non-compliant going forward. There's 8 categories of research that are completed, and that's everything from a language or a format the information needs to be stored in, where it needs to be stored, what are the trigger events, again those maximum minimum periods that need to be held for. And the Virgo legal team's just constantly monitoring for updates to those laws and regulations to ensure that when a law or regulation changes, that you are immediately notified. And again, it's just to call out the criticality of how those retention laws and privacy laws interact. We know traditionally the retention laws highlighting the minimum period that your records need to be held, but really the right to be forgotten for a consumer. The Privacy Acts now really are strong around maximum periods that you can hold certain records for. So again, that understanding those requirements and how they interact is critically important to compliance. So a couple of questions that I always like before I jump into allow Jeanette to kind of do a bit of a demo on Virgo is I think it's important to think about some of these questions. It was around kind of what jurisdictions is your organisation operating in, what does your retention schedule look like? Is it in Excel? How manual is it? Who's updating it? How often is it updated? What kind of legal research is backing that? How are you communicating those policies across your organisation? How confident are you that you are complying with all the relevant rules, regulation, privacy or otherwise at the moment? What's your risk appetite? I thought we'd do a quick poll just to get a bit of a pulse check on how things are looking with your retention schedule at the moment. Michael, if you're happy to run that poll, please. So the poll question there: how often is your retention schedule reviewed for legal or regulatory changes? There's you're not sure. It's within the past year, 2 to 5 years. Could be longer. Let's see what we're seeing there. So I'm seeing some. Yep, great. Yep. Seeing some good voting there. So what we're seeing is we're still seeing the voting going on. So we're seeing probably almost at the moment 80% who either don't know or we're getting into that territory where it's been 2 to 5 years. So it's great that probably 18% have done it within the last year. So as I mentioned, that's perfect. But then we can't we don't want to just set and forget with that. But then those 41% who have it's been 2 to 5 years, then as Jeanette will kind of will demonstrate, there's the number of laws and regulations that change within a short period of time. You start to lose track. You start becoming non-compliant. There's things that are changing that potentially you're not aware of and aren't now reflected in either your retention schedule or, in fact, and the way you reflect that policy across all your records and content types. So with that in mind, I'm going to let Jeanette share and do a bit of a demonstration for us, and I'll join you again after that. Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, let me just bring up my screen. Okay, let me know when you can see that, Matt, so I can start speaking.
Yes, I can see that. Thank you, Jeanette.
Fabulous. Okay, welcome everybody. In this demonstration, I will provide an overview of Virgo's key features. I will show you how Virgo can streamline the process for all the reviewing and updating your legal and regulatory obligations for records and privacy retention. If you have any questions, please post them either into the chat or ask at the end of the demo. Okay, let's get started. So Virgo has two portals. This one you can see at the moment is the administrator portal, while the employee portal I will go through towards the end. So this dashboard provides a visual summary of the current status of the important and dynamic elements of your retention schedule. And just to let you know, this is test data and it's not real data relating to any client. Even though you might see Monash University mentioned down here, this is just an example of something I've plucked off the internet. Okay, the citation changes. In this quadrant, it shows you just for the last quarter, for this particular retention schedule, there's been over 1,200 new legal citations. So that's a lot in only a 3-month time frame. So the citation jurisdictions, this lets you know all the jurisdictions that this Virgo instance covers for legal citations. So the ones coloured green, we have the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. If you're only Australia-based, then only the map of Australia would be coloured green. So the record series status is pretty self-explanatory, but the content type by privacy, this is fantastic. This one tells you all the different privacy classifications that have been tagged in the content. So you've got multiple classifications there. So as Matt mentioned earlier, there are constant regulatory changes happening around the world, specifically in the privacy landscape. So it's very beneficial to know which of your content types are holding which privacy classified records. So if your organisation is only based in Australia, once again, as Matt said, the current Privacy Act is under review and we may be required to demonstrate compliance with the certification scheme. So that's just to be cognisant of. So full visibility of content types holding which privacy classifications and which repository they are stored in has become a compliance necessity. And finally, in this last quadrant, comments, I'll come back to this section later on because this is critical on how Virgo can help you become audit ready and legally defensible. Okay, so let's go to record series. Okay, let me just remove that filter from earlier. Cancel that. So very plainly speaking, record series are the buckets containing related content types that all attract the same retention period. So there's different buckets, different content types, different retention periods. So this screen shows all the record series captured in this particular Virgo instance. So it's the one retention schedule for one organisation. So as you can see, there's 74 results, so there's 74 record series. So each record series will have relevant legal citations mapped to them by the Virgo Legal Research Team. This legal research team includes lawyers, paralegals and certified records managers. Okay, so we just look at the menu options. We have edit columns. So here you can choose which columns you wish to display on your screen. So there's various metadata fields behind this front page screen. So just cancel that. Reports. There's many reporting options that you can use. And view. This simply lets you view the report on the screen instead of generating a report. Okay, so let's go through the headings. So the headings are fairly typical of a retention schedule. There's always a unique code for each record series, a name, description, retention, status. But of interest here is the defining authorities. Each of the record series will get multiple legal citations attached to them. So what the legal research team do, they determine which of the many authorities or the regulatory instruments for that record series is the primary driving authority that will determine the retention period. So in that column of defining authorities, it's telling you which one is driving the retention period for this particular record series. And location will simply let you know the location of that record series. So content types. So content types for each record series are needed when your retention schedule is imported into Virgo, because staff can then search on content types in the employee portal and find the retention periods themselves. So it becomes a self-serving portal for all the staff. So it's very helpful. All right, so now let's take a look into a record series. I shall search on payroll at the top. Let me find a record series that covers payroll. See there's 74 results. I'll apply the filter, and there's two results that mention, two record series that mention the word payroll. First one's published, which means approved. The other one's a draft, so we want the approved one. So we'll go into the approved one. So most important in here to show you in this short time frame I've got is the content types. See here, there are many, many content types listed, and this is very valuable when the staff want to go and search on any particular record types or content types they work with. So this can become critical. So the more content types you can attach to each record series, the more user-friendly and valuable it will be for all staff. Okay, so let's go up to the mapped citations. So over here, I referred earlier, these are all the mapped citations that specifically relate to this record series. So even though there's Australian data in here, only the California and United States citations have been mapped. So my apologies for that. So that's why we're not seeing any Australia legislation there. But over here, the defining authority that determines the retention period for this record series, this particular one has been chosen. And as you can see, defining yes, it's clearly highlighted. And over on the left, the retention 10 years. So it's all matching. Okay, private comments. This is probably one of the most important fields that you'll need to fill in. This is where you capture any decisions or actions taken in regard to retention or disposal. So this will provide evidence of what you have done and decisions made, and this can be used for auditing or regulatory purposes. For example, sorry, I've got dry throat. For example, if you're capturing disposal actions, you would put it in here. You would list what content type was destroyed, date range, approving manager, and perhaps a reference to your records disposal register. So it's all captured in here, and it can be audited and also be shown as proof if you need to defend in court why you've destroyed certain records. And down here is the audit trail. It shows all changes that have been made to this record series. So flag citations, this means there's new legal citations relevant to this record series that are awaiting approval. And this orange map up here lets you know there's new citations waiting for your approval. Once they're approved, it turns grey. Okay, let me just go to citations. Okay, legal citations are mapped to your relevant record series on an ongoing basis by the legal research team. They don't do it monthly, quarterly, annually. It's what they do. That's their role. You can choose to receive monthly or quarterly emails advising of these updates, these legal citation updates, which you will need to check and confirm. So the results up here, as you can see, there's quite a lot. There's over 14,000 results. This is not of regulatory instruments. It's of legal citations within that instrument. So let me just explain this. If I refer to the legal requirements column, so one of those listings there, one of those line entries might be about access, it might be about disposition, and it could be about privacy, it could be retention. So each line entry is an individual citation. So one regulatory instrument could have multiple citations. Hence, that's why I've got so many results here, because that's a reflection of how many times something was cited in a regulatory instrument that refers to one of these record-keeping obligations. Let me just hop out of there. So let me just do a change there. So let me do a filter on privacy. First of all, I'll go to jurisdiction. Sorry, I'll show you that you can also search on which country you want to look at. So if you only want to see Australia, you tick Australia. Off you go. And the results drop down to just over 3,500. So I'll just take that filter off. And now the requirement type, I only want to see privacy related citations. So now I'll go down and just choose privacy. So I'll choose go. And then I only want to see the important and new ones. So I'll go over here and I'll say an important change, a new change, and in the last year. So that results figure at the top. Will drop significantly. But interestingly, if I then change the time frame, if I change that to 90 days, so that's 522 different privacy requirements in 1 year. If I choose, 90 days, not 6 months, go again. So just in the last 90 days, there's been 138 legal citation changes. So you can see quite quickly, or got great visibility here, of the potential regulatory compliance gaps that you may have throughout the year. If this has happened in 90 days and you're only conducting annual reviews of your legal requirements, or even every second year, you can see quite quickly how you can be non-compliant. So Virgo provides full visibility of all legal updates relevant to your business activities. Okay, let me just remove these filters. So I've got a clean slate. And let's go to citations. All right, let me just go run a different search. Let me search on important and new. Let me choose the jurisdiction of California, because we have none for Australia. Let me choose California. And once again, important and new are my main concern at the moment for 90 days only. So there's 198 results. So just in one state alone in the US in 90 days, there's been 198 legal citation changes where actions will need to be taken or initiated to ensure that your organisation is compliant. Okay, let me go into one of these citations. Let's have a closer look. Once again, this has got an orange flag at the top, which is letting you know that it's the visual cue to let you know this citation's awaiting your approval. And once again, we have the private comments. So in here, if for any business reason you want to keep something for longer than what a legal citation is saying, you need to put in here a reason why, who approved it, and the date. This is critical to be audit ready and legal defensibility. You would capture it all in the private comments. And in the audit trail, anything that's highlighted are what the new changes are. So they're all highlighted in yellow for you. Okay, let's go to content types. So this is the full listing of all the content types and their supporting metadata. So in this Virgo instance only, for one particular organisation, there's 580 different content types. It has the same menu options, so you can edit show which columns you want to be viewing. It's got reporting options and it's got view report on the page option as well. So there's less reporting option here for content. All right, and let's go now into, let me just talk to the headings. So the name, retention, record series, privacy. It's got all the different privacy classifications. It shows you at a glance which contents have particular privacy classifications, which one are vital records for business continuity purposes, who's the information owner. If you need to keep a track of your business processes to comply with the GDPR, you can list the business processes in here. It has many options in the content types. It's very helpful with showing compliance with regulatory requirements. Okay, so now repositories. So repositories capture where all the content types are stored for both physical and electronic records, and at the moment we have 23 different name repositories. So with the heading, simply the name, repository of record, that lets you know if it's the master or the authoritative source. So if it's yes, it's got all the original records. Is it held by a third party? Is it records capable? What this means is, has the retention schedule been applied to that repository? Because sometimes you'll have physical repositories, electronic, in the cloud, on premises, off premises. There's many places they could be. Is there a legal hold in place? Who is the business owner, the technical owner? And in the description, you can actually put the location of the repository. So that's very handy. So let's go into audits and have a quick look. So here, once again, in audits in description, you can put in the location, it's free text, the type of repository on the click down option. Is it an application? Is it in the cloud? Is it a database, on-site, off-site? Is it file share? If you want to show the critical records maybe on your file share, you can choose file share, service provider, third-party holdings. So you've got multiple options. That can also be used as an information and data map because it shows where all your content types are stored and if they are the master or authoritative source. So it shows which is the single source of truth, has full visibility by saying if it's the master record. And once again, record series, it lets you know in this repository, sorry, content types, it's storing 4 different content types which are included in 2 different record series, which is listed there. Private comments, once again, if you want to put a comment in there, like if it's planned, this repository is going to be decommissioned on a certain date, you might want to put that note in there and explain where it's being moved to, if it's going to be decommissioned or transferred to a cloud or into another warehouse, a data warehouse, you can put comments in there. And the audit trail. Anything that affects the records stored in this repository will show up on the audit trail. For example, added health department survey to content types. So if those content types are included in here, it will be mentioned in the audit trail. So let me just go, and finally we go back to the dashboard where I talked about the private comments. Sorry. So once again, populating this field provides valuable evidence of decisions made and actions taken. So instead of searching for decisions and approvals in emails, it's all captured in Virgo. And so it also helps provide legal defensibility if required and responding to regulatory inquiries about what's happened to particular content types or which records are you capturing. So in here is an example where I type something into a private comments field. I said what happened, I changed the retention period to 11 years, why did I do it, and who endorsed it, which manager, and the date. So it's got all the important information captured there. So this is critical. Lastly, I'll go to the employee portal. So in here, this is very valuable for the staff so they can self-serve and be self-educated and be kept informed of retention periods relevant for their records. So the landing page is the retention schedule. So they can either type it in on this page, what they're looking for. There's another page I'll go to shortly. So let's just search on payroll. As you can see, there's 2 record series that cover payroll. The benefit of going in and have a look in the record series, you can see what other content types are relevant to where the payroll records are held, because it will list all the content types and payroll will be one of them. Payroll's listed multiple times, so that's very helpful. And now if I go to the content type search, we can just put in a keyword. Sorry, I'm going to cough. Sorry. And I'll put payroll in here as well. And this will give you an exact match on that word only. It won't show you all the other content types kept in the same record series. So you choose which particular record you want to locate. Let's choose deduction form. And there's the content type result. So in here automatically it shows you what privacy classification it's got. It lets you know who the information owner is, which business process was used to process these deduction forms. It shows you what record series it's included within, and also what repository it's captured on. And is it held by a third party? No. Is it master record? And surprisingly the answer is no. So it's very helpful. Staff know straight up all the helpful information they need to understand how to maintain their records. Okay, and that's it for me, Matt. I think we'll go back and see if there's any questions or any questions in the chat.
Thank you, thanks, Jeanette. Always great to see the solution in demonstration mode rather than just in words or slides. So I think that's great. So hopefully all you guys on the webinar got a real sense of kind of what that looks from a practical point of view. So if I was trying to sum up kind of what all that looks like from my perspective, it's all about reducing or mitigating risk. I've talked a lot about laws and regulations and the degree to which they're changing. They're becoming more onerous. The global trend is certainly going that way as well. So again, mitigating risk, reducing your cost of compliance. We talked a bit about, I guess, the onerous nature of updating something that's kept in Excel, internal legal research, etc. And improving productivity in that you don't have teams of people who are having to constantly maintain, update, keep retention schedules current. As Jeanette's talked about in good detail, it's audible. It's a single source of truth for your retention policy. It keeps your policies current. As I said, it's as we saw in the poll, a lot of you, 20%, I think, had done some great work. And well deserved pat on the back that your retention schedule has been updated in the last 12 months. But again, how we're going to make sure that stays current, and then a question of how and what's the best way to do that. And Virgo is certainly a solution for that. As I said, reduces your reliance on manual spreadsheets. I love Excel, but I don't think Excel is a great way to manage a retention schedule. And through that employee portal and the like, it gives employees confidence and the like to destroy records that no longer need to be kept, which ultimately is going to reduce your information and management costs. Just again, a quick snapshot here, some of the household names that are already subscribers to Virgo. As you can see, some household names, global companies across all sectors, complex organisations, highly regulated, and importantly, they're all dealing with high levels of customer data. So therefore, there's a need to be fully compliant and to not just hope and wish for the best, to stay current, to be aware of the changing nature of laws and regulations, and all these organisations have certainly seen that they need to be across these changes and be proactive to manage what's in their boxes, what's in their repositories, what digital records they're holding in, and better understand how to hold, retain, dispose, etc. Certainly look forward to kind of continuing on some of the conversation with Virgo with all of you. Please drop some questions in the chat function now, and please do also reach out if you'd like Jeanette to talk more in detail through a one-to-one demo, because I think it's always pretty powerful to see the demo and then to have that kind of conversation around perhaps your specific needs for your organisation, what some of the challenges that you're facing, what you're seeing, where your records are, and how that looks, and certainly how a solution like this can help simplify the way you.
Now, just we do have a question. Jeanette, are you there yet? Have you seen the question from Mary?
I have, and it's an interesting question because I am not familiar with school registration standards, so I'm not sure. Are the record keeping requirements, I'm guessing, within in the school registration standards is what I'm going to guess. And in Virgo, they do all the mapping mainly for regulations, acts, rules and regulatory bodies. So if there's a regulatory organisation like a national one that issues registration standards for how to keep records for schools, then that would be included as well. Then that, yes, because it's a regulating body. So that could be captured. That's a good question.
No, thanks, Mary. That is a good question. Yes, thank you. But and you're right, Jeanette. That would absolutely would be captured for sure.
Mm.
And I think I think Mary's question is that kind of good case in point that every kind of industry, every sector's got some slight nuance to it. They've all got different laws and regulations. Whilst there's a common set that govern all organisations, and certainly in terms of the record series, in terms of your standard corporate function, Many industries have something in regulations that are quite specific, and again, Virgo covers those kind of industry dynamics. And as you saw from my my last slide, the number of subscribers are across different industries, different sectors, whether you're kind of your banking, your consumer goods, manufacturing, etc. It's it's a comprehensive solution that again allows you to stay current. And I guess I guess if there aren't any further questions, that's probably a good way to kind of just to think about it and summarise it. It's again, I've talked a lot about the laws and regulations, the privacy changes, and certainly Jeanette as a retention management information governance kind of expert, she takes she lives and breathes this stuff daily, and we talk about it all the time about kind of the stuff that's coming, the potentially exciting changes, but the onerous changes as well. These laws and regulations, our Privacy Act review, these aren't going to be watered down. So it's just something that we just need to be constantly thinking about. As I said, like, are we as an organisation, ZircoDATA, are we complying? Are you guys in your organisations complying with these changes? How are we doing this? How are we focusing on to stay compliant? Jeanette, not sure if you've got anything else to
Yes, just one comment, just on the education sector. If you have international campuses, and I'm sure if anyone does in this meeting, they will be aware that you'll have to comply with the privacy requirements in that country as well. So Virgo would be very helpful from that perspective as well, to be fully compliant for your international campuses and where your academics are based and students. So that's a good question to raise there, Mary. It's got good segues. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeanette. Certainly the more complex your organisation, the more powerful Virgo can be. There's a question there, can it flag in the system? Can you see that, Jeanette?
Yes, definitely. The legal hold, that shows up in the repository. It does, and you can put it, understandably, it will show up as against all the content types. So to complement that, in the notes field, you put in this legal hold is only relevant to content types X, Y, Z, instead of putting a hold on the total repository, so not to limit people and what actions, any continuing processing they can do on those content types. So yes, legal hold can definitely be flagged. It's similar to a Royal Commission, I should say. It's not just a legal hold.
Thanks, Jeanette. And there's no further questions. We might wrap it up there and then let everyone have a bite to eat for lunch. But again, thank you very much for joining Jeanette and I today. It's been great to chat, and look forward to connecting soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.